Welcome to the Claude Certified Associate Foundation's CCAO-F Question Bank Series. In this video, I've got 15 exam-style practice questions lined up for you, covering the kind of prompting, output evaluation, product and model selection, workflow integration, projects configuration, responsible use, and troubleshooting scenarios you'll see on the real CCAO-F exam. Each question comes with the correct answer and a full explanation, including why the wrong options are wrong. Here's how to get the most out of this. When a question appears, pause the video, pick your answer, then hit play to check yourself. Ready? Let's dive in. Question 1. A social media coordinator at a mid-size skincare brand asks Claude, "Write some captions for our new product." The output is generic and could apply to almost any product. What is the most likely reason the output lacked usefulness? The correct answer is D. The prompt lacked specifics such as the product, audience, tone, platform, and desired length, forcing Claude to guess at requirements. Vague prompts without context, product details, target audience, brand voice, platform constraints, push the model toward generic, safe defaults. Adding these specifics is the core fix for weak prompt output. Now, why the other options are wrong? A. Claude cannot write marketing copy without a paid enterprise plan is incorrect. Claude can generate marketing copy on standard consumer and business plans. Plan tier is not the cause of a generic output here. B. Captions are a task type Claude is fundamentally unable to perform well, is incorrect. Short-form copywriting, including social captions, is a task Claude handles well when given adequate context. The limitation here is the prompt, not the task type. C. The user should have used a different AI product entirely for creative writing, is incorrect. Switching products does not address the root cause, which is missing detail in the prompt itself. Question 2. A marketing manager wants Claude to produce a full competitive analysis of 3 rival SaaS products, including feature comparison, pricing positioning, and messaging gaps in a single prompt. The result is shallow and misses pricing details entirely. Which task decomposition approach would most likely improve the outcome? The correct answer is B. Break the request into sequential steps. First, list known features per competitor, then compare pricing tiers, then synthesize messaging gaps, reviewing each step before moving to the next. Task decomposition into smaller, sequential subtasks lets the manager verify and correct each piece before building on it, which produces more thorough and accurate multi-part analyses than one large ambiguous request. Now, why the other options are wrong? A. Reduce the request to only pricing, since Claude cannot handle multi-part analytical tasks, is incorrect. Claude can handle multi-part tasks. Narrowing scope entirely abandons the original goal, rather than solving the structuring problem. C. Ask Claude to complete the entire analysis again with the exact same prompt, since repetition improves depth, is incorrect. Repeating an identical prompt does not add missing structure or information. The model will likely produce a similarly shallow result. D. Add more emphatic language such as "be extremely thorough" to the same single prompt, is incorrect. Emphasis alone rarely compensates for lack of structure. Breaking the task into discrete steps is more effective than intensifying wording. Question 3. A customer success rep asks Claude to draft a renewal outreach email. The first draft is polite but too formal for the company's casual brand voice. What is the most effective next step to iterate on this prompt? The correct answer is C. Give specific feedback in the same conversation, such as, make this more casual and conversational, similar to how we'd text a friendly colleague, possibly with an example of the desired tone. Effective iteration means giving targeted, specific feedback on what to change, tone, register, and ideally an example within the same conversation, so Claude retains context from the first draft. Now, why the other options are wrong. A. Ask Claude to simply shorten the email, since length is the likely cause of the formal tone, is incorrect. Length and formality are different qualities. Shortening text does not reliably change its register. B. Accept the draft as is, since Claude's first output is typically final and not meant to be revised. Is incorrect. Iteration is a core part of effective prompting. First drafts are commonly refined. D. Start a brand new conversation and re-ask the original question in case the first response was a fluke. Is incorrect. Starting over discards useful context and does not address the actual issue, which is tone, not randomness. Question 4. A product marketing team is kicking off a new campaign. In one session, they want to generate many wild, unfiltered name ideas. In another session, they want a precise, well-researched summary of a competitor's recent pricing change. How should their prompting approach differ between these two tasks? The correct answer is A. For brainstorming, encourage volume and creative freedom with fewer constraints. For the factual summary, ask for precision, sourcing caveats, and verification of specific claims. Adapting prompting strategy to task type is a core skill. Brainstorming benefits from open, high-volume generation, while research analysis tasks benefit from precision, constraints, and instructions to flag uncertainty. Now, why the other options are wrong? B. Only use brainstorming-style prompts, since factual research is not a task Claude can support. Is incorrect. Claude can support research and analytical summarization when prompted appropriately. The two task types need different framing, not avoidance of one. C. Only use precise, constrained prompts for both, since creative freedom always reduces output quality. Is incorrect. Overly constraining a brainstorming task limits idea volume and creativity, which is counterproductive for that task type. D. Use the identical prompt structure for both, since Claude interprets all requests the same way regardless of intent. Is incorrect. Task type materially affects how a prompt should be framed. Treating brainstorming and factual research identically produces weaker results for both. Question 5. A campaign director gives Claude a single, dense prompt requesting a positioning statement, a full email nurture sequence, ad copy variants, and a launch timeline for a new product line, all at once. The output blends sections together and the timeline is missing key dependencies. What is the best diagnosis and fix? The correct answer is C. The prompt bundled 4 distinct deliverables with different structures and audiences into one request, decomposing it into separate, clearly scoped prompts, or sequential steps within a conversation, for each deliverable would produce cleaner, more complete results. When a request combines multiple deliverables with different formats and goals, decomposing into separate focused prompts reduces blending and omissions, letting Claude give full attention to each piece, including dependency logic in the timeline. Now, why the other options are wrong? A. The director should switch to a lower capability model, since simpler models produce more organized output for complex requests. Is incorrect. A less capable model would likely struggle more with complex multi-part reasoning, not less. Model downgrade is not the fix for structural prompt issues. B. The request exceeded Claude's knowledge of marketing concepts, so a different tool is needed for timelines. Is incorrect. Claude can reason about marketing timelines and dependencies. The issue is the complexity of a single, undifferentiated request, not a knowledge gap. D. Nothing can be improved. Blending sections and missing dependencies are unavoidable with multi-part marketing requests. Is incorrect. This outcome is a known symptom of insufficiently decomposed prompts and is addressable through better task structuring, not an inherent limitation. Question 6. A B2B sales enablement lead wants Claude to write follow-up emails that consistently match a specific persuasive but friendly voice used in past top-performing emails. What prompting technique would most reliably achieve this consistency? The correct answer is B. Paste in 2 or 3 real examples of the top-performing emails as reference samples, and ask Claude to match their tone, structure, and phrasing patterns when drafting new ones. Providing concrete examples, a few-shot style approach, gives Claude a clear pattern to emulate, which is far more reliable for matching a specific, nuanced voice than an abstract description alone. Now, why the other options are wrong? A. Describe the voice abstractly, such as sound professional, and trust Claude to infer the rest from company reputation. Is incorrect. Abstract descriptors like professional are open to wide interpretation and rarely reproduce a specific, distinctive voice consistently. C. Request that Claude use more exclamation points, since punctuation alone defines a brand voice. Is incorrect. Punctuation choices are a minor surface feature and do not capture the structural and tonal qualities that define a persuasive brand voice. D. Ask Claude to write 10 completely different tonal variations and pick whichever one happens to match best by chance. Is incorrect. This is inefficient and unreliable. It does not give Claude the guidance needed to target the specific voice, relying instead on luck. Question 7. An account executive needs Claude's help twice this week. Once to brainstorm objection-handling talking points for a sales call, and once to analyze a batch of win-loss notes for patterns. How should the prompting strategy differ between these two tasks? The correct answer is B. The brainstorm should invite a wide range of possible objections and responses with minimal constraints, while the pattern analysis should specify the data provided, ask for evidence-backed themes, and request the reasoning behind each identified pattern. Brainstorming benefits from open generation, while analytical tasks benefit from clear inputs, requests for supporting evidence, and explicit reasoning, matching the prompting strategy to the task type as the exam objective specifies. Now, why the other options are wrong? A. The analysis task should be phrased as a brainstorm to generate more creative pattern ideas. Is incorrect. Framing an analytical task as a brainstorm risks ungrounded, speculative patterns not actually supported by the win-loss data. C. Both tasks should use open-ended, loosely structured prompts since both involve sales content. Is incorrect. Sharing a sales context does not mean the tasks need the same prompt structure. Brainstorming and analysis require different framing to get good results. D. Only the analysis task needs a well-structured prompt. Brainstorming prompts do not affect output quality. Is incorrect. Prompt structure affects brainstorming output too. For example, specifying the audience or constraint set still shapes idea relevance and usefulness. If you are finding this video helpful, you want to get the complete set, all 360 exam-style questions with full explanations across all 7 CCAO-F domains are available in my Udemy course, Claude Certified Associate Foundations, CCAO-F 6 Practice Tests. The link is in the description below. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next video, where I'll walk you through 15 more questions. Let's continue with the next question. Question 8. Over several turns, a sales enablement specialist asks Claude to build a competitive battle card slide, then refines the messaging 3 times based on feedback from a regional sales lead, then asks for a condensed one-line summary for a deck. On the final ask, Claude's one-line summary reintroduces a claim that was explicitly removed 2 turns earlier for being inaccurate. What is the best explanation and corrective action? The correct answer is B. In a long, multi-turn, iterative conversation, earlier corrections can get diluted or overlooked when generating a new condensed version. The specialist should explicitly restate the constraint. For example, do not include the claim about X, which we removed earlier, when requesting the summary. Long iterative threads can lose emphasis on specific earlier corrections, especially when compressing content. Restating key constraints explicitly at each new request step is a reliable way to keep iterative refinement on track. Now, why the other options are wrong? A. Claude deliberately reinserted the claim to test the user's attention. Simply ignore it is incorrect. Claude does not intentionally reinsert removed content to test users. This framing misattributes intent and offers no real fix. C. This indicates the conversation must be restarted from scratch, since Claude cannot iterate reliably over multiple turns, is incorrect. Multi-turn iteration is a normal and generally reliable workflow. Restarting loses useful context and is a heavier-handed fix than simply restating the constraint. D. The condensed summary format inherently cannot exclude any previously discussed claims, is incorrect. Condensed summaries can exclude specific claims when instructed clearly. The issue is that the instruction was not repeated for the new request, not a hard format limitation. Question 9. Claude produces a competitor research summary for a marketing team that includes the sentence, "Competitor X grew revenue 340% last quarter, according to their Q2 earnings call." The team cannot find this figure in any public source. What should the team conclude and do? The correct answer is A. Treat the unverifiable statistic as a likely hallucination, remove or flag it, and verify any similar figures against primary sources before using them externally. When a specific claim cannot be confirmed through independent sources, it should be treated as a potential hallucination. Best practice is to fact-check numeric claims against primary sources before relying on or publishing them. Now, why the other options are wrong. B. Report the number to leadership immediately, since specific figures are always more credible than general statements, is incorrect. Specificity alone does not indicate credibility. Unverified specific numbers are exactly the kind of hallucination that requires validation before being shared. C. Rephrase the statistic more vaguely so it no longer needs verification is incorrect. Softening the wording does not fix the underlying accuracy problem. The claim may still be false and misleading, even if phrased less precisely. D. Trust the figure, since Claude generally cites numbers accurately, is incorrect. Language models can produce plausible-sounding but fabricated statistics, hallucinations. Accuracy is not guaranteed, and unverifiable figures should not be trusted by default. Question 10. A sales operations analyst asks Claude to summarize 50 CRM call notes into key account risks. In the summary, one paragraph states a customer is highly satisfied and expanding, while another paragraph in the same summary lists that customer among accounts at high churn risk. What is the most appropriate response? The correct answer is B. Flag the internal inconsistency. Go back to the source call notes for that account and ask Claude to reconcile or clarify which characterization is accurate before using the summary for decisions. Internal inconsistencies within an output are a signal that the summary needs validation against source material. Reconciling the contradiction before acting on it is the appropriate evaluation step. Now, why the other options are wrong? A. Ignore the discrepancy, since summaries often contain minor stylistic variation, is incorrect. This is a substantive contradiction about account status, not a stylistic variation, and could lead to poor decisions if left unresolved. C. Automatically assume the churn risk classification is correct because risk flags are always prioritized by Claude. Is incorrect. There is no rule that one contradictory statement is automatically more accurate than another. Both need to be checked against the source data. D. Delete both mentions of the customer from the summary to avoid dealing with the conflict. Is incorrect. Removing the account entirely discards potentially important information rather than resolving the underlying accuracy issue. Question 11. Asked to describe an ideal customer profile, Claude's output repeatedly associates serious, decision-ready buyers with executives from large urban companies and describes small-town or rural business owners as likely to be slow, hesitant adopters without supporting data. What is the most likely issue and appropriate action? The correct answer is B. This reflects a potential bias in the output. The reviewer should question unsupported generalizations, request evidence, or remove the characterization and replace it with segmentation based on actual behavioral or firmographic data. Broad, unevidenced characterizations tied to geography or company size can reflect bias baked into training patterns or unwarranted extrapolation. Evaluators should catch and correct such generalizations, grounding segmentation in real data instead. Now, why the other options are wrong. A. Bias only matters in outputs shared externally, not in internal profiles, so no action is needed, is incorrect. Biased assumptions embedded in internal strategy documents can still skew targeting decisions and resource allocation, so they should be corrected regardless of audience. C. This is simply accurate market segmentation and should be used as is incorrect. Characterizing an entire geographic or demographic group as inherently hesitant without supporting data is a generalization, not validated segmentation. D. The output should be used only for rural customers to balance out the bias. Is incorrect. Restricting use in this way does not correct the biased claim. It merely relocates a flawed generalization rather than addressing it. Question 12. A content marketer asks Claude to write a blog post citing a 2025 Gartner study showing a specific adoption percentage for a technology trend. The marketer wants to publish this externally. What is the most rigorous validation approach before publishing? The correct answer is A. Independently locate and confirm the actual Gartner study, verify the exact statistic and context match what Claude wrote, and only publish once the citation is confirmed or replace it with a verified source. For externally published claims attributed to named research, the rigorous approach is to independently locate and confirm the source before publication, since fabricated or misattributed citations create real reputational and legal risk. Now, why the other options are wrong. B. Ask Claude a second time whether the study is real, and accept whatever answer it gives as final confirmation. Is incorrect. Asking the same model to self-verify its own prior claim is not a reliable substitute for checking an independent, authoritative source. C. Remove the year from the citation so it is less specific and therefore safer to publish. Is incorrect. Making the citation vaguer does not resolve whether the underlying claim is true. It may even make a fabricated claim harder to trace and correct. D. Publish as written, since naming a specific well-known research firm like Gartner makes the claim inherently credible. Is incorrect. Naming a real, reputable organization does not guarantee the cited study or figure actually exists or says what is claimed. Models can fabricate plausible-sounding citations. Question 13. Claude drafts ad copy for a dietary supplement that includes the line, clinically proven to cure anxiety. Before this copy is used in a paid campaign, what should happen? The correct answer is D. A qualified human reviewer, for example legal or compliance, or a subject matter expert, should verify the claim, since unsubstantiated medical or cure claims carry regulatory and legal risk that Claude cannot certify. Claims implying medical efficacy, clinically proven, cure, require human verification against actual clinical evidence and applicable advertising health regulations. This is a clear case where human review is mandatory before external use. Now, why the other options are wrong? A. Ask Claude to add a citation to make the claim appear more credible is incorrect. Adding an unverified citation does not make an unsubstantiated claim true or legally safe, and risks compounding the problem with a fabricated or unchecked source. B. The copy should be published immediately since it reads persuasively and will likely perform well, is incorrect. Persuasive tone is irrelevant to whether a health claim is true, substantiated, or legally permissible. This claim requires review before use. C. Simply replace cure with help and publish without further review, is incorrect. A word swap alone does not resolve whether the underlying claim is substantiated or compliant. It still requires expert verification. Question 14. Claude produces a detailed, jargon-heavy summary of quarterly pipeline performance intended for a slide the VP of Sales will present to the Executive Committee. The draft is accurate, but dense and hard to skim. What is the best next step? The correct answer is C. Ask Claude to revise the summary specifically for an executive audience, leading with key takeaways, using plain language, and condensing supporting detail into scannable bullet points. Adapting outputs for the intended audience is a core evaluation skill. Executive-facing content typically needs a top-line summary, plain language, and concise formatting rather than dense jargon. Now, why the other options are wrong? A. Convert the summary into a spreadsheet, since executives only respond well to raw data tables, is incorrect. A raw data table is not inherently the right format for executive presentation. A concise narrative or bulleted takeaway format is typically more appropriate for this audience and context. B. Discard the draft entirely and manually rewrite the whole summary from scratch without Claude's help, is incorrect. The underlying analysis is accurate and usable. A full manual rewrite is unnecessary when targeted revision for audience and format would suffice. D. Present the draft as is, since executives are expected to read dense technical detail, is incorrect. Content should be adapted for its intended audience and context. A dense, jargon-heavy summary is poorly suited for a quick executive-level slide presentation. Question 15. A content strategist asks Claude to write a 1,500-word thought leadership article, intended to be edited collaboratively over several passes and eventually exported to the company blog CMS. Which output format is most appropriate for this task? The correct answer is D. An artifact containing the full article text, which can be viewed, edited iteratively, and easily copied out to the CMS. Long-form, substantial, standalone content that will be revised over multiple passes and exported elsewhere is well suited to an artifact, which keeps the full document separate and editable rather than buried in conversational chat flow. Now, why the other options are wrong? A. A series of 10 separate short chat messages, each containing one paragraph, is incorrect. Splitting a cohesive article across many disconnected chat messages makes it harder to review, edit, and export as a unified document. B. A structured data table listing each paragraph as a separate row is incorrect. A tabular, structured data format is appropriate for data like CRM records, not for flowing long-form prose intended for a blog. C. A brief inline chat response summarizing the article's key points only is incorrect. A summary is not the deliverable requested. The strategist needs the full article as substantial standalone content, not just a synopsis in the chat. And that's a wrap on this video. Nice work getting through those 15 questions. If this helped, you're going to want the complete set. All 360 exam-style questions, with full explanations across all 7 CCAO-F domains, are available in my Udemy course, Claude Certified Associate Foundations, CCAO-F 6 Practice Tests. The link is in the description below. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next video, where I'll walk you through 15 more questions. See you in the next video!